Hey, welcome to the Jennifer O'Brien Show. I am your host, Jennifer O'Brien. I am super excited to be here today. I have super funny comedian Andy Forrester. Good morning, Andy.
Good morning, Jennifer.
Hello, all the
Sorry,
way
I
from
have to.
North Carolina,
Yeah.
right?
How are you doing up there in New York?
Yeah,
Where are you
where's
located?
everybody?
Aren't you located in New York or
No, I'm in Atlanta.
Atlanta? Oh,
I'm in
that's right.
South,
That's
or
oh
maybe
yeah, that's right.
Southwest.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina. I forgot. Yes, you are.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm good, man. It's good. We got good weather. It's nice and getting a little nippy, but at least it was this morning. I've
yeah.
already been to the store and bought rotisserie chicken, so I'm
Oh.
good, man.
So so being a comedian and when you're not out doing gigs and shows, are you're home like
Oh,
Mr.
I am the
Dad?
yeah,
Like
I'm a
you're
homemaker. I'm a stay-at-home dad.
yeah.
Um, I have a 15-year-old with lots of issues, and I have to deal. I mean it like she's as close to special needs as you can get without the actual diagnosis, but
Yeah. Yeah.
lots of other
Well, I'm
diagnoses.
sure she loves the support.
Yes, so if I wasn't here, then they'd be calling my wife at work, going, "You got to come get her."
Yeah.
She did this today, which I
Yeah.
got last week. On Wednesday.
You
Hey,
got to go get her.
yeah,
No.
she decided to wear bunny ears to school last week,
Yeah.
because she was sort of like, "Let's dress up every day this week leading
Why
up to
not?
Halloween,"
Why not?
and somebody came by and stole them, and her reaction was over the top.
Okay.
The kid who took them was a jerk, but her reaction was to scream at the top of her lungs,
Mhm.
which then sort of incited a riot within the cafeteria. And as she went
Oh.
out, so did hundreds of other kids.
Oh.
And as adults tried to help her, she was like, "You're not going to help me," and then just kept, yeah. So it was
Well,
fun.
it sounds to me like you have a fearless leader on your hand and you just
Yeah.
keep encouraging her, and she sounds like a world changer. You just got to kind of keep her in the realms of like changing the world for better,
Yeah,
not for
yeah,
worse.
that's really the thing, is will she use her powers for evil or good? And a lot of days it's evil. And
Young, she's hormonal and she's young. You just keep loving on her. The love
yeah,
of a father goes a long way with these daughters of yours. So you just
uh,
hang in there, Andy. It does get better. And listen, there is a thing that happens when they hit 25. And I testify for 26-year-old. I'm telling you, there is something that happens to that brain and they start to come to it's like all of a sudden light bulbs do go on. I was just forever. I was like, nah, you don't want to wait till 25. But I'm just
right.
saying something
All I know
special
is
happens.
both of my girls are very self-centered, and they're very, like, well, this is all about me. And I don't have that. I have the I need to help people.
Yeah.
Even doing comedy, I'm like, well, I love this because I love making people laugh, type thing. Like, it's not that I'm not occasionally selfish in some regard, but for the most part, like, I don't go out and buy stuff for myself, and I don't, like, I spend a lot of my time doing for the people in my family,
Yeah.
and a few naps here and there, but a lot of times, which really that's for them, their safety, to be
Yes.
honest. So
Yes. That's how I recharge. I'm like,
yes,
I gotta shut this down.
yeah,
Everybody
yeah.
has their way to recharge. I'm a napper. Give me like a good 15 minutes. If I can shut it
15 minutes.
down.
You're not even trying. I'm talking like two. So what happens is
Oh,
I
well,
like,
you go all in with a 2 hour. Now see,
yeah, like a two
that
hour
can
nap.
sometimes backfire. You go 2
Oh, it
minutes
does. It
and then
does.
like to wake back up from it in the middle of the day, it's like I
Yeah.
get a little like
Yeah. It's bad. It's
it
not a good idea, but like I used to have to do this with my older one when she was in high school. She couldn't wake up. So
yeah,
I would have to get up at like 5:45, 5:30, somewhere around there, and
yeah.
wake her up. And then for a while before she could drive, I carpooled with other moms in the neighborhood.
Uh-huh.
And when it was my week, I had to be up and drive and leave the house at like 6:30 in the morning. So I've been up since, 5:30, 5:45.
Yeah.
And by the time I get everybody to where they need to be, and then make sure the younger one gets to
Oh,
school and
yeah.
all that stuff,
You
you're
gotta
like,
take
it's
a
9
nap.
o'clock, and you're like, yeah, listen, I'm gonna head on back to bed because I am.
Oh, I remember those days. I
Yeah.
do. I remember those days for sure. And I remember when my girls were young and all my friends would be like, "Oh, nap time. That's when I get all the stuff done around the house." I'm like, "Are you kidding? That's
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
I take a nap." I
Yes.
am like,
Exactly. Yeah.
I was all about the naps. That's how I survived it. I
Yeah.
just was like, "Listen, things just don't get done. I'm sorry."
Right.
Um, it is. It's a gift. I can live in chaos. I
Yeah.
mean, I
That's how
don't
you.
want to. I
Right.
can't stand when things are out of sorts, but
But
I
that's
can
how you
survive
get
it.
laundry that's been washed 3 times.
Yeah, I've been
Right.
there,
Yeah.
done that. I'm
Yeah.
like, "Ooh, uh-oh." Oh, especially and then it gets to the dryer, and then you realize, "Uh-oh, it was
Yeah.
in the washer too
Yeah. I
long,
can't
didn't get
dry this.
showered."
Yeah. I
Oh,
gotta
the
wash
worst.
it again.
Summertime laundry, I don't do well summertime laundry. It's anyway, so we're lazy when it comes to laundry is what we're dealing with here, Andy, and we both like to nap, so we're
Yeah.
we're 2 for 2 right there.
I
So
like it.
tell us I wanna hear about your comedian. Talk about your comedy journey. How'd you get started and all
I
that
got
good stuff?
I got started by doing improv comedy.
Okay.
I was when I was in college. I was a DJ on the radio and a little bit yeah, a little bit on a real station after that, and I always just enjoyed like when I was a DJ on the radio in college. Initially I was there like every year I was there, and when you first start out, you're like there at 7 a.m. You're like, yeah, this is the Deftones, and then you just play it or whatever.
Mhm.
And then it became a thing where they let me have my own show. I bring in my own records. I would bring in funny stuff. I'd
Mm.
bring in like really old rap music. I know a lot about like the origins of rap music, and so I'd bring in some of that. Then I'd bring in like Winnie the Pooh, and I'd bring in like my buddy had Jimmy Dean the Sausage Guy has a song called "Would You Please Pass the Biscuits," and he'd loan that to me. I'd play it on that. We had a lot of fun.
Oh,
So
that sounds like fun.
oh, it was awesome. It was awesome. And so then I kind of moved away from where in Greensboro, and when I came back to like the Raleigh Durham area, I went to I was gonna. I told myself I was gonna try stand up, but I went to an improv show, like a comedy sports, where it's like
Mhm.
whose line is it anyway? And
Mhm.
at the end of the show, they're like, "Do you think you can do this?" I'm like, "Oh, I can do this. This
Yeah.
is my jam right here."
Yeah.
And so I did. I signed up, took classes, and I did it. I did it for around 10 years, but at the 6 year mark, I decided to start trying just give stand up a shot. Somebody at the
Mhm.
improv place said, "Hey, I'm doing these classes over at Good Nights, and if anybody wants to come see me." And so I replied with, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I'll come see you. Listen, how do you get into these? How do you get into the Good Nights open mic night?" So he was like, "Oh, you'd be great at this. You should try it." And I did, and I loved it. I had no stage fright, and
Yeah.
I find that a lot of people who try it, have a little bit of that. A lot of the comics I meet are like, "Well, I got to have a couple of beers or get high or do something before a
Mhm.
show," and that's not my thing. And I had
Mhm.
none because I'd already been doing improv, so I had no problem being on the stage. So
Yeah.
my first night went really well, and they were like, "It's his very first time," and these other comics come up to me, they're like, you sure it's your first time?"
Yeah. You're like, "Well, I've done
I was like,
improv."
"Yeah, here at this club it is." And so, they found
Mhm.
out eventually
Mhm.
that I had other experience. And it's funny because when I started doing stand up, the people at the improv club kind of poo pooed it. And when I was doing stand up and they found out I used to do improv, they were like, "Oh, that stuff's terrible." And I'm like, "No, they're both fine. I love them both. Like, I don't know why you can't enjoy
Right.
both
Why
and just
can't you merge the 2, you
it's a
know?
great
It's
skill to
like
have, to be honest.
easy.
If you're on stage and
Mhm.
something just gets, thrown at you verbally, you
Mhm.
can run with it because you're like, yeah, this is what I've been doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, Good Nights, kind of a legendary club in the Raleigh, here in North Carolina. It recently, the building was demolished, but they still exist. They're just in a different building until their
Oh,
new
okay.
building is built. But yeah, that's where I started. I took classes there because I knew if you took the classes, you were sort of forced to do stage time on their open mic night.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so I took the classes, and the guy running them, Lumpy, said that he said, "Well, you can do whatever kind of comedy you want, but if you can work clean, you can get more work."
You can work,
Yeah,
absolutely.
you can get
Yeah.
work. Where
Mhm.
and the thing is doing the improv comedy was already family friendly,
Yeah.
and
Well, that's wait, that's not always the case with improv. So explain that
Well, I think
because
long form can be usually long form improv
Mhm.
is can typically be, a little dirtier. Short form improv, especially now, the guy who owned Comedy Works or Comedy Sports,
Mhm.
at least the branch here in Raleigh, changed the name to Comedy Works because he didn't want to pay the franchise fees, but we still played the games and the show the same
Yeah.
way. And it's you get games, you get suggestions from the audience, and you play the game based on those suggestions. And
Mhm.
we would have practice to practice the games and that sort of thing. So, but they were pitched as family friendly shows, and you even had like a groaner foul if if you said something.
You went dirty.
Yeah, like,
Mhm.
and even the audience would get what they call brown bag, and like the number of times that you know the referee would say, "Hey, I need an occupation," and somebody in the
Mhm.
audience would say proctologist, and they would get brown bag for that because while it's not a dirty word, we know what
Yeah.
they're
Right, you're gonna start doing doo-doo jokes.
right.
Yeah.
We know
Mhm.
what they're trying to do, so it's like, all right.
Yeah.
And it's a great way to get people to like, all right, don't be throwing that. Don't start. The next one is a gynecologist or
Sideways.
whatever it is. We don't need all that. So,
Right.
um,
Mhm.
but so I'd already been, doing that, and I was pretty good at like, not. I mean, I curse. Like, to be honest, I feel like I curse like just any other person would,
Mhm.
off stage, but on stage, I'd sort of learned not to. I thought when I went to go do stand up, I'm like, well, I'll be edgier, but it doesn't really fit who I am. I mean, I am an Eagle Scout. I
Mhm.
don't. I sort of have like I think I was telling you earlier, like a reverence for people and ladies, especially like, you don't talk about this sort of thing in front of
Yeah.
ladies. And I know that that's in some circles it's frowned upon. Like, no, you talk about anything in front of anybody, who cares? I'm like, that can be how you roll. But
Right.
I say yes, ma'am, and yes, sir, and no, ma'am, and no, sir, and I'm very, you know, which that got me in trouble the other night on Halloween. Side note: a
Mhm.
kid came dressed as an inflatable unicorn. It's a really neat,
Yeah.
it's like the Tyrannosaurus Rex, except it was a unicorn, but you
Okay.
can only see this part of their face right here.
Right. Sure.
And they said thank you and happy Halloween, and I said yes, ma'am. And the kid walked about 5 feet and then turned around and goes, "Did you say yes, ma'am?" I'm like, "Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I can only see this much of your face. Is it yes, sir?" He's like, "Yes." I'm like, "I am so sorry." So that bit me in the butt from saying, I know. I, there's no way I
These
would have
days in
known.
the yeah.
There's
Well,
no way I would have known it was a boy or a girl because there's only like this could
yeah.
be. Don't get me. I mean,
This
me.
generation and those pronouns, you better get them right.
I know.
Come at you.
So, so anyway, I started
Mhm.
doing stand up, and I probably tried to do some dirtier stuff in the beginning, not never
Mhm.
sexual, just cursing,
Yeah.
and it didn't fit me. It
Right.
just not at all. Sorry, there's something in my mouth. I
Yeah,
got.
there you go.
Oh no,
Sometimes you just like, where'd that come from? How did
I
the
apologize.
breathe?
I
Well,
apologize.
something. That's all right. Listen, go for it. Go for it.
So so yeah, and at the time I started, a new owner
Mhm.
owned Good Nights. He like was one of the very first house MCs of the club, back when it started in like the early '80s, and
Mhm.
so he bought the club, and he would watch the open mics, and he was looking for people that could work clean because that's who he needed to MC shows, to feature, and this sort of that sort of thing. So because I got all kinds of work at that club,
Yeah.
and I mean that's a great place to learn and do what you do, and the thing is I like, while I say I work clean, I always say like, well, I'm not telling Care Bear jokes, but like
Mhm.
I'm not filthy. And every now and then I would tell something that I would think back, go, well, maybe that one wasn't a good one or something like that. Or I used to tell a joke about a Prius, and it had a gay overtone, but it wasn't negative at all.
Mhm.
And but it got me in trouble at a gig, and I'm like, all right, well, I'll never do that again because that's not what I want. I'm like, it's not
Mhm.
an offensive joke, but if you want it to be, it can be. And
Yeah.
so I don't like doing that sort of thing. I don't like.
Well,
I
every
don't
joke
mind.
is offensive to somebody. Let's
Yeah,
just
I
be
don't mind
honest.
tiptoeing up to the edge at all,
Mhm.
and
Right, but I know what you mean. I know what you mean. There's definitely
yeah,
some that are just
yeah,
people
like
build
they're
careers on them.
fun, and they're fun and that sort of thing. But
Right.
maybe if the audience, especially if the audience like as a whole seems to be like, no, we're not liking that. You do it like another time, and the whole audience as a whole again is like, no, we're not liking. You're like, all right, all right. So,
Mm, mhm.
but overall, I just kind of kept doing that, and I would get to work with like, famous people, and it was awesome. Like Lord, this is not his name, Joey from Full House. Why can't I remember his
Joey
name?
Lawrence.
Yeah, well, that's not
Wait, was that his name on the show,
no,
or
it's
is that
not
his
his
real
name.
name?
It's not his name.
No,
Um,
isn't it? No, no, I think it is.
no,
It's not
Joey
Joey
Lawrence.
Lawrence?
Joey Lawrence is a kid actor that grew up, and he was always super handsome.
Oh,
Uh,
yo,
I'm
Joey.
gonna have to I'm gonna have to look him up now because that's gonna drive me
Wait, from
crazy.
Full House. Wait,
Yeah.
the blonde guy?
Uh,
Oh, I
it
know.
is Dave Coulier. Dave
Oh,
Coulier.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I get to work with like Victoria Jackson from Saturday Night
Oh,
Live,
yeah.
Rob Schneider from Saturday Night Live, and Tom Arnold and that sort of thing. And some comics would come through that look like are you from Atlanta or at least the Georgia area? Are you
Yeah.
from there?
Originally from Florida, but I've lived
Okay.
in Georgia for
Are you familiar with Tim Wilson?
mm.
No. Okay. So Tim Wilson, very famous Southern comedian.
Yeah.
I think he was originally from Kentucky, but I think he lived in Atlanta or at least the area for a while. He
Yeah.
was a musician and a comedian, and he was absolutely hilarious. And I grew up listening to a radio show near out of Charlotte, North Carolina, called John Boy and Billy, and he would come on there, and he was hilarious. And so
Yeah.
when he came to Goodnights, he would come for like weekends at a time. He would come for like
Mm.
2 and 3 weekends at a time and sell out every show. So one weekend, I think it was when he was only doing one weekend, and I just begged the owner, I said, "Can I please?" He said,
Yeah.
"Well, he doesn't do a feature act." I'm like, "I'll do anything, man." And he says, "Well, how about you do a guest spot every night?" So, and I loved it because I got to meet him, and I thought it
Yeah.
was awesome. So, I mean, that's the sort of thing. Like, I love it. I love, like, it's not so much I love meeting famous comedians because I
Mhm.
love meeting non-famous comedians because we're all doing the same thing,
Mhm.
and we're all chatting about it. Like if you can tell if somebody loves doing it, like to me, you love doing it if secretly you would do it for free.
I know.
You know what I mean? Secretly, I
They
would do
can't tell anybody that. They're like,
yeah,
"Come on,
definitely.
do it for
Like,
free, pro bono."
secretly, you're like, if I had all the money in the world and was like, man, I just do this for free. That's how much I love doing it.
I know.
And
It's a good
that
sign. It's a good sign you're in the right lane.
yeah. And
Yeah.
there was a lot of things that led up to it
Unless you suck. Sorry.
yeah, no, you're well, and here's the thing, man. I've met people who took the class when I
You
took
would
the
do this
class.
for free, wouldn't you? Because you're really not good. Go ahead. Sorry.
What?
Go ahead.
Sorry, what did you say?
You would do this for free, but you're not good at it. So I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
suggest
yeah,
to do it for free. Yeah.
yeah.
So
Well, and that's the thing. Like, I certainly didn't invite people out to come see me do stand up when I started, and
were you afraid they wouldn't like you?
yeah, you don't like they always do
Oh,
that.
I used to be mortified. People would be like, "Oh, you did a show last week?" And I was like, "Yep." And they're like, "Oh,
Yeah,
you should have told me." I'm like, "Nope."
no,
I would
no.
not tell I would just go do stuff.
Yeah,
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 I
yeah,
got
yeah.
it.
I wouldn't, and the thing is, I would tell them for years, hey, I'm doing improv. You can come see
Yeah.
me at a show, but I never really
Interesting.
like
But not with stand up.
not with stand up, not at the beginning, because I was like,
Mm.
what if I'm technically not good at this?
Mhm.
What if even though I've thought I would be for years,
Mhm.
what if I'm not? And it was probably 6 months, 9 months, and I would start inviting people because I'm like, no, I'm not that bad at this.
Good.
Like
I'm good. I know I am.
I
Okay.
well, and that's the thing is,
Mm,
I'm
mhm.
not I am not a super confident kind of guy. I don't, I'm chock full of low self esteem or lack thereof, whatever it is.
Which make the funniust comedians. I hate to say it, but your
Yeah,
pain is pretty funny.
I'm just as self deprecating off stage as I am on. So
Yeah.
it's but I mean that's the thing. Like I did, and I never wanted to invite anybody out and then watch me and go like, well, thanks for inviting me out. That's a lot of fun. Like I never wanted that to happen.
That
So
you
when
did
I,
good. You did
yeah,
that was good. Good for you.
yeah, exactly.
Good.
Nobody wants to hear
Good.
that.
That
And
was
so
good.
I
Oh, I've
was
had people though come to my
yes,
shows and
right. Like
and
you've
say
done
things
like,
like, "Oh, yeah. Oh, I like that. Yeah, good job." And you just know, like, maybe it wasn't a great night. You're like,
yeah, like
I'm gonna go home and
nobody,
cry."
yeah, most people who do this know when it, even when you're starting out, you know if it's a good show or not.
Oh, you
But,
know if it's your room or not for
yeah,
sure. Yeah.
but there are definitely the either daft or delusional that don't pick up on the fact that you know what I mean. Like, yeah, I've seen that,
Oh. Oh,
and it's
it's like they have their self-awareness
no
is
self
like
awareness.
nothing.
Yeah,
They're just I'm like, "Are you on the same you are you where's your mind at?" And,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
part of me envies that. I'm like, I would just love to be so blindly confident and
Yes,
never
yes,
understand how like, take a pulse of a room or whether
yeah.
I'm got the room or not. There's a part of me that envies that, but there's another part of me that's like, well, I guess you would never really grow as a performer if you don't learn to have really bad nights or say, "Gosh,
Oh
that
yeah, you
sucked.
can't.
That was
And,
awful."
and I will tell
Yeah.
you that I didn't bomb probably for three months when I first started, and then they were
That
like,
was the good
"Hey,
Lord saying, "Go, my son,
yeah," and
go."
then they were like, "Well, hey, can you come MC like
Bum,
in
bum,
two
bum, bum.
weeks? Come this weekend, like on a Sunday night, and you can watch, and then you can do a guest set while you're here, and then you just watch how it all goes." So I did that, and
Yeah.
that's when I bombed in front of a headliner, and in front, yeah, 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 and the headliner goes, "Hey, better to get it out of the way now than you know." So, and it was weird because I had told the exact same jokes I had told like the Wednesday before, and
Yep.
everything was fine, and then it
Yep.
didn't work, and so that's when you know, but that's the only, and the thing is if you do that, if you bomb and you're like are ready to quit, it's probably not for you. But if you bomb, you're like, I got to figure out what I did wrong. Like I
Yeah.
did something wrong, or you just are like, that's fine. That audience, you know, whatever they were sleepy. I don't know.
Yeah. Sometimes
Um,
it's a little bit of both. It's a
yes,
little bit
yeah,
of,
yeah, yeah,
"Hey,
for sure.
maybe I did these jokes."
Yeah, yeah,
I am still learning. Like, I've noticed you and I started doing stand up around the same time, but I'm still learning. I'm still like, "Ah, dang it. Okay, so this room, don't do those types of jokes. This room,
yes,
eh, free pass for those types of,"
yeah,
so I'm still learning, and I wish I wasn't. I wish I was so, like, at a level where I never had to go back and refigure out why
yeah.
certain things didn't work out and why they work in one setting and not in another, but I guess
It is interesting, and you know, there's definitely like that comedian I was telling you about, Tim Wilson. He passed away a few years back, but so he was, I mean, he may have been 50, 60 something, but you know, I heard tell stories about like he went up to New York to do
Mhm.
gigs and they hated him.
Yeah.
And I'm always, you know,
New
not
York City.
not fearful, but
Mhm.
like that it is sort of a fear of like going somewhere. Like if people come to my front door here in Raleigh, North Carolina, I can't tell you how many people ask me like, "So where are you from?"
Mhm.
And I'll be like, I've lived most of my life in North Carolina, born in
Mhm.
Memphis, Tennessee, but you know, and they'll be like, "Well, you're not from around here," so they're like, they think that I
Hmm.
sound like non-Southern. But the moment I leave the South and go anywhere north,
Oh, yes, it
they're like,
turns you.
good. They think I'm like, hey man, how you doing? And so I don't. And when the guy, like, people have asked me at my front door that before, and I'd be like, well, we don't all talk like this. I don't know what you want, man. Like,
Mhm, mhm.
and I mean, so it's, but I do, you know, people ask me like, do you get nervous before a show? And I don't really get nervous. You know, I was telling you earlier about a show I did last weekend where it was 3 hours, and I was the headliner, not knowing it was going to be a 3 hour show. Yeah.
It's awful.
So
So
I wasn't nervous, but I was just like, well, this is not going to be good because these
mhm.
people are going to be exhausted.
Yeah.
And if your audience doesn't know, a comedy show should be about an hour and a half long,
Mhm.
a little short, a little over, no more than like hour 45. Two, you shouldn't even get to two. And I went on like at the 2 hour and 15-minute mark.
Yeah.
And, or more. And so
Mm.
and they were like, do like 45 minutes. I'm like,
Oh,
really?
stretch it.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
more. Do
So
more.
when I'm going up there, knowing that the audience is spent, it's the first night of the World Series. I'm in Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
and the Philadelphia Phillies are apparently playing in the World Series. So several people are watching,
Oh my gosh, so bad.
watch on their phone. I'm like, I feel like it's like, all right, well, I can't quite do everything normal. And I'm going to have to address certain things that I wouldn't normally have to, like it's clearly their bedtime. And, and I'm so sorry I interrupted your game.
Yeah.
That sort of thing.
Yeah. You're
And,
you're in the way at this point. Hurry up, Andy. You're just in the way.
So that's how I get, if I get nervous, it's like circumstances.
Yeah.
Overall, I've performed in theaters, I've performed, in clubs, and I've performed in bars and everything in between. And, my wife has always pointed out to me, she's like, every time it's not a comedy club, it's always weird. She's like, there's always something. It's always weird. But I've done so many brewery shows, which I have a hard time saying the word brewery.
Brewery.
Too many R's.
Brewery.
But I've done a bunch of brewery shows, and they can be hit or miss. Some of them can be like, this is weird. And then others are awesome. So
right. It depends on how much they've had to drink, right?
Right. And I mean, so it's, it's in terms of being nervous, I don't get nervous about going up on stage and being like, so what did you guys want to talk about? Like, which I see, like if you go to an open mic, you will hear the phrase, what else was I going to talk about? Like, that's a question a comic will ask the audience. And you're like, hey, if they knew, they wouldn't be here. Like, or they'd be up there with you.
I can't be doing open mics anymore.
Yeah.
It's some of the stuff these kids are taught. I say kids because I'm 47 and I'm going to call them kids because they're all.
I am 2 years above you, and I also call them kids.
The stuff they're saying, I'm like, I think I took a comedy workshop class,
right.
And I was taught right then, don't do blue.
Yeah.
If you want to work, learn to do clean. And I remember once I was out of that class, of course I went straight for poop jokes. Like I was obsessed with poop. So that was me doing like dirty jokes.
By the way, I still have a couple of poop jokes.
Who doesn't like a good old-fashioned poop
kids,
joke?
it's hard not to have poop jokes, right?
What's that?
When you have kids, it's hard not to tell poop jokes.
It is. Like I'm sorry. It's still funny. I have toned it down, and I know my audience now, and yes, people just always appreciate it. But that was me being like, ooh, here I go with some poop jokes.
Yeah. I get it.
I had a diarrhea song back in the day.
Nice.
Yes, I had a guitar and everything. And
my favorite word is dysentery.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, I love that word. I don't know. It makes me laugh so much.
It's a good one. It is.
Yeah.
Well, my favorite word as a child was turd in like third grade. So my Mad Libs, like every word, anything was like every noun was like a poop or turd, and every adjective was describing that. And listen, it was just in the cards for me then.
I once bought a bright orange turd.
Yes, it's still a very funny word. And
I pooped around with it all the time. I carried it with me to the toilet.
Yes. Okay, so I was a little different. I started off in stand-up, and then I did improv.
Okay, cool.
Years later, I my sister and I started an improv comedy troupe, and so we kept it clean, which was a lot of fun. We did a lot of family shows. I had to ask, because I've done both and you've done both. What do you prefer? Like, or is it you kind of a both kind of guy, or?
I'm both. I love them both. And they both can be cliquish within the realm of, I performed at a improv club, not like the famous stand up around the country thing where you do improv comedy. And I love them both. I love them for I love the improv for the silliness, the let's make it up. Let's get dressed up. and do stuff. You know, we
Yeah.
had a stage with costumes in the back. Anytime I came out dressed as a lady, was fun.
Crowd pleaser.
One time I planned it out ahead of time, and I brought a costume and rooted that we were going to play a game called Good Advice, Bad Advice. We did.
I love that game.
I love that game. I'm very good at it.
Mhm.
And I brought a Batman T-shirt that doesn't fit well, a Batman mask, black pantyhose, and which I think I already had on, so that I know black pantyhose and then black shorts so that nobody would be appalled. And I came out as Bad Advice, as Batman who'd let himself go, and
Love that.
it was so like the last question they asked, well, what's a good thing? And I was like talking about like, oh, I'm having a yard sale, I'm getting rid of all this stuff, and
Yeah.
the last question, somebody goes, what's a good thing to hold your pants up? And they get to me, and I was like, I got a belt you can have. There's a lot of stuff on it.
Good. Ah, man. And then you got to call the scene right there. If you hit it
Oh,
high,
it is. Yeah.
you called it.
But I love that, and I love it just as much as I love doing stand-up. I love the idea of coming up with these jokes,
Mhm.
you know, that you thought up all on your own. You know, once you get in the groove of figuring out, all right, this is how you write a joke. And I don't, like I've tried the Seinfeld method of let's sit down for 3 hours and write, and that doesn't work for me.
Mhm.
But what does is just seeing things and things happening and me writing that down.
Yeah.
For example, I was at the Sam's Club this morning, and I haven't written the joke, but I saw a product, man wipes. So
Dude wipes. Yeah.
Dude wipes. That's
Yes,
what it
I've
is.
seen those. I've seen them.
Dude wipes, minty chill.
No, they're flavored. They're
Dude,
scented.
I took a picture. It's like you have like
That's just
what is happening in your life? Yeah, let's see if I can show this to your audience.
Wait, okay, Dude Wipes Mint Chill. Oh my gosh. I bet that actually
Who needs a minty fresh butt? That's what I want to know. I need to know who needs a minty fresh butt.
If they were chocolate flavored, watch out. The women would be all over it.
Well, if they're chocolate flavored, how do you know when you're done? Anyway, it's
I shouldn't say that. I don't. That's weird. It's a little okay.
Right? So
I'm going to be honest. Now I want to try one.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing where, well, I'm sure it just has menthol in it, is all it is. So, but stuff just happens and it makes me laugh. The first time I started writing stuff down, I went on a road trip with my dad to my cousin's wedding, and I bought the notebook because I'm like, every time I'm around him, he just says insane things.
Yeah.
There's no way this isn't going to be funny.
Yeah.
And it was. And I thought when I did stand up that I would just be telling dad stories over and over again. And I really haven't, because they're hilarious to me and like my brothers.
Yeah.
But, I've tried a couple on stage and I'm like, I probably should just try them again now that I'm more experienced and just, learn to phrase it better. But when I tried them early on, they didn't resonate with anybody because nobody else's dad was this, guano loco. So.
Yeah, there's a way to do it. I've seen people make their whole set about somebody else in their family.
Right. I have too. I have seen the same thing. So there is a way to do it, and I'm not against it. I love it. I just, and I guess that might be where my act is self-centered. Like I'm self-deprecating. I will make fun of my kids. I used to never talk about my wife, but I'm a little bit more have more jokes about her. My wife said the other day on something, she was like, think about how many times he says my wife in his act. I'm like, yeah, but like if you really look at all my jokes, they all end up with me being a boob. Like a couple of them.
Right. If you can throw yourself under the bus,
yeah,
like you can take people down, but you better be taking yourself down.
And I've got a couple where it's like, I'm not the only boob, I make my wife, this butt of the joke in a way, and it definitely make my kids,
Okay, so my question, because I'm cautious about who I bring into my set.
Right.
Wife and kids, are they opposed to it? Do they care? Could they care less? Is it like, hey, cut that out? Or
yeah. So early on, I remember I've done career day at my kids'
Oh,
schools and even a
okay.
daycare when my older one was at a daycare,
Uh-huh.
and I had this joke I told, and it was a true story about her getting locked in a stall in a restroom,
Uh-huh.
in a rest area,
Oh, no.
and so my wife just hollers from the bathroom that we need help, and I go in the ladies' room,
Mhm.
and she's locked herself in the stall. And when I look through the little crack, I'm like, "Sweetie, just unlock the door." And she said, "I have poop on my finger." And so I tell, there's more to it, but I tell that joke at the daycare. And I remember later that day when I picked her up to take her home, she was like, "I don't like it when you tell that story, Dad." And I knew, I was like, yeah, that's probably not good to tell it in front of her friends. But I'm not
Yeah.
going to stop telling that story on stage, And and there's one where she poops off the side of the tub when she was 7, and my wife is
My
out
kind
of
of girl
town,
right here.
dude. Yeah. So, and so the older one has always been a little hesitant about a few of the jokes,
Okay.
but she's always been very proud of what I do.
Mhm.
She loves telling people. My dad's a comedian. He's also an artist, but he's a
Mhm.
comedian.
Mhm.
And so I did career day up here at the school. And when I would do it at the elementary school, I would always say, "Hey, I'm a comedian, but I have another job. I'm an artist and graphic designer." I said, and almost every comedian you've ever heard of usually has another job or
Mhm.
two,
Mhm.
because you don't make any money when you start out doing this. It's the
Mhm.
weirdest job where it's like, yeah, you do this, you make no money, then you might make, enough for gas, and then you make no money, and then you might make enough for gas and dinner. And so eventually you might get paid $100 and then you won't get paid again. It's weird. So, but my kids have for the most part been okay with it. Again, the older one, my favorite part about her issues with my jokes is the joke about her pooping off the side of the tub.
Mhm.
She argues about how old she was. She was 7, the other one was 2, and she says, "No, Dad, I was 6." I'm like, "I can do math, and I think I have it on a calendar.
Mhm.
So if you want me to go back, I can check when it happened, because
Yeah.
my wife was in some other country." And so anyway, but they now the wife, um, you know, she she never she never has told me not to tell any jokes about her. Oh, I
Mhm.
take that back. If something happens, she will say, "Don't you dare talk about this in your act." And
Okay. Okay.
it usually has to do with, our kids and something that they've done that's
Something
like,
personal that's
yeah,
like,
it's way too personal. You
I
don't need
agree.
to be
Yeah.
joking about it. And usually I'm like, yeah, I
Mhm.
know. Like I'm smart enough to know
Yeah.
what to
You're
talk
like,
about, what
"Okay,
not
this is a
to talk
little
about.
too." Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
need the cops showing up to my house after a set because it's like, you said this.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I usually know, but every now and then it's something that she did, and and I get it, but usually they just hear jokes, and are like if they laugh when they see me tell it or whatever, then I'm like, see, I'm not gonna not tell that one because it made you laugh, so you're
Well,
clearly not
I
that
think there's
serious.
something endearing too, especially if you're a close family, like, oh,
Yeah,
that that they kind of it gives them a little of the
yeah,
stage in a sense of like a
yeah, like
highlight reel.
a smidgen of fame in that regard.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you that I love my in-laws. I love my mother and father-in-law, and they don't come to shows.
Yeah.
Um, and they're 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 not. I mean, I've been doing this. I've been doing comedy for 23 years, and
Mhm.
stand up for like 17 of it.
Mhm.
And so they've had plenty of opportunity to come.
Yeah.
I did perform at the church one time for their group. Um, and I said this on stage, and this is true. I said, my mother in law thinks that I tell jokes about her, which is not at all true. I don't tell any jokes about my mother in law
Mhm.
on stage. Not at all.
That's good.
which which is also true because I mean, I love my mother-in-law. She's great, but
Yeah.
everybody has their silly quirks.
Yep.
And my wife and I will joke about stuff, but we do that about it. You do that about everybody. Everybody
Yeah.
always gets kind of sensitive. I'm like, no, no, no. We all, you know, joke about people all the time. It's
Yeah.
what we do. It's a familiarity thing. It's like, hey, that we have this in common that we both think this neighbor is a nutball and that sort of thing. So,
Yeah.
but so my brother thought I told jokes about him, and it's because I told him that I performed at Goodnights one night, and there was a big group of engineering students from NC State. He went to NC State. He has an engineering degree. And so I said, well, good luck to you. Maybe if you work hard enough, you can graduate in 7 years and then end up in Taiwan working in a hazmat suit, supervising people making glass for flat screen televisions, which is something that my brother did.
Yeah.
So that's why I said it. And so he thinks I tell that joke all the time. I'm like, no, I can't. I don't know when engineering students are going to be in the audience. I just happened to find out that night. Like,
right.
One time.
Which is great that you have this improv where you are able to think quick in the moment. So I do want to ask you, like, how do you feel like that has helped you in your stand-up? Do you feel like you have always kind of have that leg to stand on in case, like, hey, you're something's kind of not flowing, that you just kind of
absolutely. Yeah. I find it so advantageous. And I highly recommend anybody that is doing stand-up or is thinking about it, take some improv classes. Go perform with a group for a while, because it forces you to be thinking all the time. Like with a stand-up set, you've got, I have set lists.
Yeah.
I have them on me, but I don't typically pull them out unless I've got new jokes. And I tell them, look, I got these new jokes, and I know I was going to tell them right here. So I'm going to pull this out just to make sure I do them. And then, I said, I'm not cheating. And, but I don't, but you need to be able to, like, work on the fly. I see things in an audience sometimes that, like, I can't not address.
Right.
And I'm not, there's people, there's comics that do crowd work. They're fabulous at it. And they enjoy that more than telling the jokes that they've written. And good for them. That's their thing. I like the jokes I've written. Some of my jokes still make me giggle when I tell them, like an idiot.
Boy, that's great.
Yeah, I don't know how it works for you, but if I'm giggling when I write it,
yes, that's when this is it. That's actually when I know I'm onto something, because I think of stuff all the time. But if I actually start laughing, I'm like, oh, that's it. And then it gets worked out. And
I meet comics from the time I started that'll be like, they won't laugh at a show. And another thing about me, and it's widely known amongst people that I work with, I have a very contagious laugh. It's very loud. It's very contagious.
I laugh like insanely loud, almost to the point of like
getting kicked out of the comedy club. Yes.
But when it's funny, I'm going to laugh. Yes. Now that's the problem. If there's somebody not funny, I don't want to discourage somebody. So it's like, move me to the back if you're not going to be my kind of, because I wouldn't want them to be like, why is she not laughing now?
Yes. I get that. By the way, I get that too. I get people saying to me, I didn't hear you laugh. They asked me to come judge a contest one time. I went there, and one guy came up to me after show, goes, I didn't hear you laughing during my set. And my laugh is very distinct. I went and opened for one of my buddies. He did an album recording, and I have the album, and you can clearly hear me throughout the album laughing, because that's how distinct it is.
That's good.
It's not, I don't think it's annoying, and most people think it's contagious. But I have had people, like I was at a show one night at Goodnights, sitting in the back laughing, and these people were sleeping and talking in front of me, and eventually they got kicked out. And the door guy said, yeah, we were kicking them out, and we told them, like, you were loud, but you were sleeping and you're talking. And they were like, yeah, but did you hear the guy laughing behind us? You're not going to kick him out? I'm like,
it's a comedy.
Yeah, like, why would you pick up the guy who is laughing? Like, why? Whatever. So,
wow.
That's the thing. It's like, I'm still not jaded. I'm still not like, and if I really like the comedian and I'm working with them all weekend, I watch every moment I can. Like, I get mad sometimes. I'm like, I got to go to the bathroom, or like, I didn't do anything with my hair ahead of time. I just need to go look real quick in the mirror. I don't want to miss any jokes because I think they're fun. or an interaction in the audience that may happen that's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I don't like to miss anything because I love the comedy. And I have definitely worked with people where they're like, I'm the feature act, they're the headliner, and what they're doing is not my bag. So after watching them, for a couple of shows, I'm like, all right, I still sit and watch, but I'll doodle, I'll sit and draw in the back, that sort of thing. I won't. I try not to talk to anybody during a show because I'm like, I want to watch the comedy. Like that's the thing. You go to an open mic, you get comics that want to talk to you, like before your set, after your set. Like, stop, dude. I'm watching everybody else. And this is what we do. Like, it's rude to sit here and have a conversation. And so I find it very. Sorry, back to your question. I find it very advantageous because I can roll with it. I can. And I have come up with. Marc Maron is known for writing on stage. He'll take a topic up there with him. He has a general idea what he's going to say, but then he might strike gold when he's on stage and say something. And I've had that happen. I've definitely had it happen where, like I've got this idea. I've got it 95% fleshed out. It needs something right here. I don't know. And then I used to tell this joke about the Febreze commercials, where they would lock people up to kill them and blindfold them, and then they'd always like put him in the filthiest room ever.
Yeah.
Right. And I would be like, and I would sit there and act like I'm smelling something. And I'd be like, then they got these other ladies, they're in a gym, they're blindfolded, just sitting there. There's dudes in leotards just squatting right in front of their face. They're like, what is that? Like musky watermelon or something? What is that? And I just said musky watermelon one night on stage.
Yeah.
Everybody laughed, and so did I, like an idiot, because I couldn't, like, it just came out of my face.
Yeah.
But it was, I liked it so much. Somebody was like, you got to put that on a shirt. I'm like, nobody will get it. They'll be like, what the hell is musky watermelon? I'm like, I know.
Yeah.
So, but it's, I mean, that's the sort of thing where it's like, that's kind of the improv training. It like even the warm-up games when you're doing improv are forcing you to think, and you're not even necessarily supposed to be funny. You're just supposed to be like the stream of consciousness. This is supposed to work this way. You're just supposed to play along, go along. If you have something funny that you interject, all the better. But we're just, and I will say that is the bad part of me with improv is I always felt like it was like you had to say something funny. It's not that I didn't carry a scene, but you gotta just be able to work with your people.
Well, I was just going to tell you that sometimes I think it's the amateur that tries to be funny every second. And actually those are not, you want to improv with somebody that just move the scene. Don't worry about trying to be funny. The funny is going to come.
Right.
But sometimes when there's an insecurity in young comedians or performers, there's a pressure to just they're in their head trying to be funny just be funny, just let it flow and the funny will come.
Yeah.
So,
I admit for me, it's difficult. I certainly had people at the improv club that would get mad at me because they didn't like how I went about it. I definitely played up on the fact that I'm a big guy. I don't have like a normal look per se. So, I mean, I'm the kind of guy that can just come out, give a weird look, and people just start laughing. And I use that to my advantage. I'm not going to hide it, and I can't. It's not like, even if I lose weight, I still don't like look good. I'm not like, well, he's a handsome fella. So like, so it's just, it just is what it is. And that's one of those things where one of the many factors that make me be like, yeah, I think I was meant to do this. Like, I'm not, like, nobody would ever look at me and be like, you're the client's attorney. What would you have to say about your client? Your Honor, I know I'm wearing a Batman t-shirt, but
that's
it's like I've stayed up late as long as I can remember. Like you are not you may not be cut out to be a comedian if you cannot stay up late. Like it's just something that you have to be able to do. It is all part of what you do, and there's just and like when I was in high school, I got voted wittiest a couple of times because that's my thing. Like if somebody says something, my brain is instantly like has a response. And I got very good at knowing when I could and couldn't say the response, but I did get in trouble a few times because, you know, I'm never trying to upset people, but they say, you know, the teachers, you wouldn't get in trouble when the teachers were laughing and couldn't stop. You're like, well, I can't stop laughing. I can't send you to the office for that, but
That's great.
yeah,
So it's always been in there, always been in there. So as we're kind of coming to a wrap up, so what's the highlight reel? Like have you had like, hey, that was a pretty cool show, or meeting that comedian
yeah.
was pretty, do you have any
I
or
have a couple. Yeah, I definitely have a couple. One of my favorite weekends of comedy was the weekend I worked with Marc Maron, and he
Mhm,
was at Good Nights. He brought his own feature act, but I begged the owner, "Can I please? I'll do anything. I'll scrub the
mhm,
floors, whatever." He goes, "Well, how about you MC for the weekend?"
mhm,
I was like, "That's awesome. I'll do it. I don't care." Um, and I had probably been doing comedy stand up at that point for like 5 or 6 years,
mhm,
but I was a big fan of Marc Maron's podcast, and I loved what he did. And so in the evenings when the shows were over, I would take
mhm,
him and the feature act back to their hotel or out to eat or something like that. And
mhm,
we're sitting at a restaurant after the show, and Led Zeppelin is playing, and
mhm.
Marc Maron looks at me, he's like, "Eh, right? This is awesome." I said, "Yeah." And then I just said, "Do you know the song No Quarter by Led Zeppelin?" And he's like, "Which one is that?" I said, "It has like this watery sound to it." And then I said, "There's this band called Tool." He's like, "I've heard them." I said, "They did a cover of it that is
Mhm,
incredible."
mhm.
So on the way back to his hotel, I play it for him. He goes, "This is awesome." I was like,
Yeah.
"Do you have any other music?" He's like, "No." So I said, "I'll burn you a copy of everything." So I burned him a copy of everything, brought it to him.
Mhm,
He was ripping it to his computer that night,
mhm,
and he tweeted about it. So he tweeted, "Thanks," with my name,
mhm,
Comic Big A. "Thanks, Comic Big A, for all
mhm.
the Tool CDs. I'm ripping them on my computer now. They're awesome." And so I'm trying to go to bed that night, and my phone's blowing up, which never happens because I'm not remotely famous. But because he mentioned me, it's like bing, 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 and
Mhm.
so his fans are just going nuts. So the next day, I'm going to pick him and the feature up, take him to lunch,
Yeah.
and I pick him up, and I said, "Man, your fans are crazy." And he goes, "Oh, I know, I know." He goes, "If you think that's wild, check this out." He goes, "This is an email I got sometime in the last year." I know we're trying to wind it up. I'm sorry.
No, no, this is good. I'm leaning in. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah. He
"Wow."
said, "So this is an email I got
Yeah.
sometime last year. Check it out."
Mhm.
And it was an email from somebody, and it says, "Do you ever have self-absorbed a-hole musicians
Mhm.
on your podcast?" And I look over at him like, "Who is this?" He goes, "Scroll down." And it was from Maynard James Keenan, who is the lead singer of Tool. Yes. So he
Gotcha.
got that email like sometime the year before. And I said, "What did you say to him?" He goes, "I replied, who the hell is this?" And he not knowing who it
Uh-uh.
was. So
Mhm.
then he tweeted that night about the CDs I gave him.
Yeah.
He goes, "I just got this email this morning." And it was from Maynard again saying, "Shall we try this again?"
Ha 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 ha.
Replying to the tweet saying, "Shall we try this again?" And then he was on his podcast a couple
There
of
it
months
is.
later. So that is like one of my favorite bands. That like
Uh,
one of my favorite. He just
yeah.
sings so well.
Cool connection.
Like it was like, and just working with Marc Maron and getting to hang out with him and seeing his process was fabulous. That's one of my all time favorite weekends of comedy. I've definitely worked with lots of other people, not even like famous, that I've had such a good time with. I did get to record a Dry Bar comedy special in
Mhm.
2019,
Mhm.
and that was interesting and has done wonders for my career in terms of like get more people see me. I
Yeah.
have better videos to send people. Um,
Mhm. Mhm.
like I'm out there. It's been seen millions of times on different platforms. So it's like I can't knock it in any way, shape, or form. If you don't know what Dry Bar is, it's I'm sure you do, but like your audience doesn't know. It's clean comedy filmed
Mhm.
out in Utah in front of some Mormons, not all, and you got to be like squeaky, squeaky clean. And
Mhm.
so like that, I didn't think that was a problem. But then they send you the guidelines, and they're like, "Well, you can't say 'Oh my God,' because to them that's like saying GD."
Oh, yeah, that list, you gotta really rein it, make sure,
But
yeah.
if you've already filmed yours, right?
Mhm. Mhm. It's
Right.
not out yet, though.
So I know, and I'm sorry. But if I hope that you got the video that I got, which shows Karen Rontowski, because they were like, you shouldn't say, "Oh my God." However, this is how Karen Rontowski approached it. Have you seen that?
They send you a whole thing, and
Yes.
I think I remember watching and just trying to make sure.
I sent her a message afterwards because I had met her once before, and I just said, this is so genius, because clearly the clip is from her second. That you filmed 2 nights, you filmed 2 shows in one night.
Right.
Clearly, this is her second show. She just stops and says, "Look, people, I'm really sorry. Apparently, I say 'oh my God' an awful lot, and it's like a nervous tick, and I can't stop. I do not mean to offend you. So if you hear it, please don't be offended. It's just something that I can't seem to get out of my mouth." And so we all agree, and we're just going to move on from there. All right? Sounds good. Oh my God. The other day, and she just slips that in, and I asked her, it's like, "Did you do that on purpose, or was that just like," she said, "Oh my God," and then moved on to the next joke. And she goes, "I have to tell you the funniest part." She goes, "You're not supposed to say that, but when they finished filming my special, they wanted to call it 'Oh my God.' They didn't, but they wanted to because they thought it would be hilarious." It's like, oh, it would have been awesome.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, those are, and I got to work with Louie Anderson. I got to film a thing with him. And he was wonderful. He called me up when you have a famous person call you up and ask you
wow.
that is, and I don't know about you, but if I get phone calls from certain places that I don't know, I don't always answer it.
Right.
But this was like Hollywood, California, and I was like, well,
here's the call.
Yeah, let's see what this is about. And then, like, "Hey, this is Louie," and you're like, "Oh my God, it's awesome."
You're trying to just be cool. You're like, "Oh, hey, yeah, what's up?"
Yeah. Well, I filmed something with him. It's called PureFlix Comedy All Stars. It was actually filmed near Raleigh. This guy named Tommy Blaze put it all together, and PureFlix is like a Christian company. It was all clean comedians, and they had like Sinbad host like a couple of shows. Jeff Allen hosts some shows, and Louie Anderson hosted some shows, and I got to do it with Louie Anderson. And I was going to wear a red shirt. I like wearing red a lot, and he ended up wearing a red dress shirt. I brought 6 with me in the car, so I just went and changed to a different one. So when he called me like a year later, asking me if I would open for him at a theater or nearby, I was like, sure. So that night, I'm in the bottom of the theater wondering where he is, and I have his phone number, so I texted him, "What are you wearing?" Because and I did it because I didn't want to be wearing the same thing again.
Right.
And he was like, "Where are you?" I'm like, "I'm in the theater. Where are you?" He goes, "I'm still at my hotel. I'm waiting on my Uber." And I was like, "What hotel are you in?" It was 2 blocks away.
You're like,
and they booked in there. They told me. So when I said, "I'll just come pick you up." So when I came, and picked him up, sorry, I just got a text from my wife. I forgot to take my dog to the groomer. I'm a bad person. Anyway,
no.
I know, I'm fired.
Putting your act.
So when I went to go pick him up, he goes, "They told me that this hotel was in walking distance." And I was thinking, it is, but not if you're Louie Anderson. It's not.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
But he was so nice. I mean, that's the thing. Like, I would say 99% of the comics, you meet are absolutely wonderful people. Every now and then you meet a dud, and you're like, "Oh, you are not in this for the right reason." But yeah, I love it, man. I love meeting other comedians, people who are struggling, doing the same thing that you're doing. So,
and having a good, it's the journey, and it's the people you meet along the way. And that's why I'm loving the podcast, because I get to meet different people and get to hear their stories and their journeys. But I know Andy needs to get that animal and run to.
Oh, well, I'm past my appointment time, so I'm gonna have to call him and find out. And when I start
put the dog down, make it easy on everyone. Just go ahead and put the dog down.
Bad dog. You're no. Oh, that's not what you meant.
So yeah. So those that want to find you, how can we direct people? Do you have a website?
I'm at Comic Big A. My nickname is Big A. I'm a big dude. My name is Andy. So Comic Big A. That's my website, comicbiga.com. That's my handle on Facebook, Comic Big A, Twitter, Instagram. I have another Instagram that shows my artwork, which if you go to my other, So you should check that out. It's like Andy Forrester art with like Andy _ Forrester _ art. And you can see I draw with colored pencil. I try to make it look real. And so, yeah. And if you Google Andy Forrester, that's 2 R's in the middle. I should be the first one that comes up, hopefully. So yeah,
So on your comicbiga.com, do you have a link to any of your art stuff, or is it just all your comedy kind of
it's
separated?
mainly all my
Okay.
comedy. It would be a lot smarter if I did, but
Keep it.
again, I'm a low self-esteem kind of guy. So even though the truth be told, I'm a good artist. I'm a pretty good artist. Yeah, I can just show you.
Oh, let's see. Let's see. Do tell. Do
Yeah, yeah,
show. Do show this artwork that you speak of, Andy_Forrester_art
yeah,
on Instagram. So simple. That's always where I get caught up with the underscores. That's when you're
yeah,
starting
yeah,
to be
yeah.
like,
Me
whoa,
too.
slow down underscores. But
Yeah.
it's the world we live in. We live in an underscore world.
So I like horror movies, and I drew this
Okay.
recently. This is color pencil and ink, and it's Jeepers Creepers.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's a swamp thing?
it's the creeper from Jeepers Creepers.
Oh, from Jeepers Creepers.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. And,
Wow, you do that. You did that. It's like,
yeah,
what's your medium? What are you using here?
color
Acrylic?
pencil. I
Pen?
like color. I like color pencil. It's
Color
my
pencils. Okay.
color pencil is my medium of choice, but I also do regular
Oh, an
pencil
elephant. Oh
and
my gosh.
yeah.
What in the world? So my husband's like, he's a fine artist. So you literally see something and draw it. Whoa, hello.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And can you do computer? Like, can you draw
Yeah,
that
yeah.
into a computer, like Illustrator? Like,
Yep.
you work with software, right?
This is the world's greatest guitar player, Tom Morello, and he
Very
has seen this. He has shared it, and I got to meet him because of it. So,
Oh, look
yeah,
at you. You were like Renaissance man. Okay.
yeah.
Very cool.
So that's the thing. Like I don't like to brag about myself, but at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but I can draw. Like,
There
because a
it
lot of people will
is.
be like, I can draw, and I'm not saying that they can't, but like the thing is, as an art student, I'm like, like I just always had a different view of, like, I like stuff to look real. Like I like
Yeah.
a little bit of impression stuff, but like I don't think Jackson Pollock is the world's greatest artist, and I know that other people do, and I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's fine. You're welcome to do that, but if it's something that anybody could do,
Yeah, look, I make it rain with the abstract. I'm not gonna lie. That's
yeah,
just where I work. But when I look at something and if I'm like, I could do that, like I'm not as impressed. But when I see something, I'm like, there's no, like, I'm not there. I'm a lot more impressed with that. But
yeah,
if those people decide to do abstract, great, more power to you. But
yeah,
I just, but anyway, we could keep going. This is great.
yeah.
So
Sorry.
check out comicbiga.com
Yep.
to look up
And that'll
Andy
link you to
Forrester.
everything. There's links to all my social stuff and that
Okay.
sort of thing, YouTube and everything. And I should put up a link, like check out my artwork at this Insta. Yeah, I should do
Yeah,
that.
do it because you're good. And
Yeah.
it's
I do sell some prints of like the frog and the chimp at the end of shows. I sell some prints. I need to do some more because
at your merch table.
yeah. Just because I'm
Oh,
like, hey,
why not?
why not?
You
I'm
should
gonna do it
design
online.
all your
I'm gonna
own
do it
stuff,
online.
right?
So
You design all your own stuff, I would imagine. All your own
yeah.
merchandise,
I don't
t-shirts,
need
things
to.
like.
I don't need to hire a graphic designer. I have my first album coming out soon, and I was like, well, you don't have to hire anybody to do the album cover. I got that covered. So yeah.
That's how you got it. Sometimes you just got to figure out how to do as much as you can yourself, and
Yeah.
it saves
Oh yeah.
money, and it's,
Like edit. Like who knew that as comedians we would have to be video editors?
But
Right?
you know what? I for years I struggled, and now that I know how to do Final Cut Edit, I love it. There's a freedom that in creating content that I didn't have years
Yeah.
ago. It was
Yeah.
always relying on waiting for my husband or somebody
Yeah.
else. And
Oh yeah. I'm with you.
anyway, well, this has been awesome.
Yes.
Give your wife and daughters love, and I hope that you're not in too much. I hope you're not in the doghouse with the dog because.
Well, yeah, it's a process. Well, we've passed the 1 hour mark. I'm so sorry.
No, well, this is good. I mean, we can keep going, but
Yeah,
we gotta leave them wanting a little more. You
yeah,
gotta
and
leave,
I gotta
not a
find out how much
3-hour comedy
trouble.
show, not
Yeah,
like
I
a
gotta find
3-hour
out how much
comedy.
trouble I'm in. That's what I gotta find out. So
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for coming on, and we'll do this again another time.
absolutely. Thanks for having me, Jennifer.